Welcome to Networking Coffee. We already had a breakout room to explore the term cross-contextual comprehension, which I think is very important for polymaths. And it's great to see you all here and contributing. What can you quickly share that you found out in exploring the term in your groups? Just pop in and say.
I would say that one of the things that we did was we recognized that there's an overlap between polymath and neurodivergence, and that there is an overlap with the ideas of pattern matching and um, being able to take what you learn in one context and apply it to a new context, and then helping other people to realize that by basically guiding them through asking many questions.
Thank you so much. What other aspects did you find out? Yes, please, Nathan.
Our group started with the observation that this is just the way we think, that we have experience, we have knowledge, we have interests, whether it's work or individual learning or whatever, and insights from other fields are just there.
Who found something else? Thank you so much, Nathan.
Well, our group was discussing about, I think that Taniki, sorry, I might have got pronounced your name wrong again, sorry. But we find that we find ourselves quite isolated within the generality of the public because we can see the whole motorway and people only looking in their lane straight in front of them, which makes it very hard to interact in a way because you kind of like we talk past people, not that we're ignoring what they're saying, is that I think people find that when we discuss certain subjects, or especially in-depth subjects, we see so much that it's hard for them to then translate into their own language or their own understanding, which makes us either look well out there or just talking nonsense. And that's again, Taniki was saying about isolation. It can feel very isolating, even though we try and interact with social norms and interact with conversations and stuff. I find it very hard to sit in a group of people and have small talk. I just can't do it. I feel bored. I feel drained. And it's like you're talking about EastEnders, or it's a soap, by the way, for those that aren't in England, and people revolve their lives around this. Oh yeah, did you see? Oh, what would you do in that? And it's like, can't you lot see the bigger scope on what is actually being discussed?
So
And no,
thank
they
you so
can't.
much, Adam. I think that's in my emails I wrote about there's there's like an advantage of being able for cross-contextual comprehension and a need for it because we need the context to match what we need, and the context is not defined. This is what Adam Walls talked in his book, Do Systems Exist? And the quick answer is no. So now, Julia, please.
Well, just to say, we also discussed that a lot of, like for instance, education will say they want to talk about pan, trans, intra, departmental, faculty, whatever discussions. They want to have these talks. They want to become involved. They want to bring everybody together. But the reality is that as soon as you get to these groups, they want to silo, and it's you can bring a lot of metaphors and so on to try and bring people together so that they do understand that the context does happen outside their circle, outside their particular discipline. But I think most of us in that group experienced being told one thing, that there was a demand, a wish for this cross-fertilization, this understanding across boundaries, but that people, the reality was that most people were afraid of that and just wanted somebody who could work with other people, not necessarily to understand them.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you so much, Julia. And I thought, like, it's the a thing that many people do, taking experts from many fields together, but how can they then be related? We polymaths do it all the time because that's the way our brain works, as Nathan said. That's the way we think. So if there is not some polymathic person in those interdisciplinary groups, how do they even talk to each other? Because everybody talks a different language. So the next question is, Lou, can you tell us of circumstances where your ability of cross-contextual comprehension was helpful?
Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, well, actually doing Fritjof Capra's course, it's essential really, because he's bringing everything together. He's bringing ecology, he's bringing economics, he's bringing physics, biology, chemistry, everything together when he talks about living systems. So I almost don't feel that you can talk about living systems without going trans-contextual, because I feel that is really a way we need to view the world, and I feel like we need this wide angle view and this dot connecting and this patterning. So I've been using it in all my work, really. I can't think of one specific example, but I have used it in all my work. Was that your question? Just let me check
So
in
why
with
did you,
you.
what was the benefit of it that
The
you have
benefit,
this?
yeah, the benefit. I think the benefit was networking across other groups with key people to get things done, and also connecting dots and bridge building. And if you look at the world, if you look at going from sustainability to regenerative, then if you look at regenerative practitioners, they are working across all those different contexts, aren't they? And so, yeah, I think that's very, very, I think it's beneficial. I think that as dot connectors, we can network and pattern, and we can be more effective. Not having that very, very narrow worldview. So that's what I think is beneficial. And, what's that quote by Humboldt that says, I can't remember the quote now. I did a post on it last week. The dangerous thing about people with, who've got no worldview, who haven't viewed the world, is a dangerous thing to have. So yeah, I don't know.
You're
That's what.
talking politicians there.
Yeah, exactly, Adam, exactly. Yeah, and unfortunately, we are dealing with a lot of people who have a very, very narrow worldview. So I feel now it's essential in this time to have this wide angle worldview, transcontextual. Nora Bateson to me is there's a queen of this with her warm data labs. But yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Erna, please. Do you remember the question?
Hi, everyone. Yeah,
And lovely to see you here. I'm
thank you for the
excited.
invitation. Well, in this case, it allows me to see and notice that are underlying patterns across different environments. My background is already quite different from my peers, and it helps me in the workplace, in the navigating family, navigating the legal system, navigating even the medical setting. If I have to speak to a doctor, it's called code switching. So you switch yourself.
Hmm.
and to adapt. Like, since I'm always mediating between the tech guy and the legal guy, it helps me to have ability to understand both. So I could code switch each time. This is not what he said. This is what you heard. This is not what you said. This is what you heard. So I sort of like translate for them in between. So, and I understand that considering I have also different family background and they don't normally speak nicely or correctly or gently with each other, I'm always doing the mediation work. So kind of like you being the host. So this helps. So does this
Yeah,
make sense to
that's
everyone?
wonderful. And I'm really delighted to have met you at my other project,
Yeah,
Intergenerational Women's Circle, Women Who Wander, and welcome to Networking Coffee as well, because I
yeah,
discovered your polymathy in the other context, which is funny.
yeah. Oh, and just lastly is in the end is about the art of giving and receiving. Sometimes people don't want to receive what you're giving. So you have the ability to say it's up to you. It's consent. So I'm asking consent whether would you accept this or not. So it's art of communicating pretty much.
Thank you so much,
So
Erna. John Sad, please.
Yeah, so the art form is simple as hard. So I'm going to say that instead of being able to have 2 hours, I only need 30 seconds. So I'll defer my time to everyone else. I'm going to sum it up this way. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing to not put it in fruit salad. And I think the power of what we can do by identifying patterns, understanding that something's a fruit, but to cross-contextualize it and apply it in other areas is the ultimate gift because it teaches us not to put it in fruit salad. That's as quick as I can make it and as simple, as applicable as it should be.
Thank you so much. You made me and other people laugh. Ed Brenniger, please.
I like that, John. That's very good. I have had to live this way all my life because I felt that none of the systems of this world or the structures of academia or business or the church where I serve, none of those fit with me very well. And so I've always had to change, adapt to, not so much change, but adapt to the circumstances. And where it's the benefit that has come from that is seen in my podcast, the Eddie Network, and the people that I've met there and the conversations I've had there have been just amazing, incredible. And it's just not being able to talk to people. It's able to get on a plane and go somewhere in the world by yourself, get off the plane, and inject yourselves into a city or a community or someplace, and begin to build relationships where you can function in those places where you have no background, no knowledge. You may have one contact with someone, but I can go anywhere in the world and find myself able to find the things that I need, find the people I need to know, and do it without it projecting somehow a level of self-importance, as if
Mm.
you really should know me because I'm really special. No, I don't like that. It's being able to walk into a context and see what's special there, what is there to appreciate, and that's basically how this is developed in my life.
Thank you so much. This is such a beautiful statement, Ed. I love it. Ellen, please.
Well, you probably know by now what I'll say, which is that it enabled me to recognize or become aware of the fundamental ecological and evolutionary principle of natural inclusion. And it is essentially understanding all that flows from the reality that we human beings are included in nature, not isolated from or one and the same as nature.
And it's also interesting in this context that you have explored this, I call it maybe natural law, that this appears in so many contexts, and you have written, what books have you written about? Can you maybe?
I've written quite a few books. I mean, but some of the principal books in recent years, one was called Nature Scope. Another was The Origin of Life Patterns. And of course, I've contributed to book chapters and written lots and lots of papers, all of which originated actually, and it's kind of ironic given Richard Dawkins has suddenly come back on the scene by thinking that Claudia is conscious and falling in love with her. I actually found the ideas of Richard Dawkins and selfish gene theory repellent. And as a biologist and evolutionary ecologist, I wanted to understand what was wrong with them. And essentially, what's wrong with them is binary logic. And that's kind of interesting. But also, I would say that all my life, because I've combined my scientific and my artistic appreciations, all my life I've actually worked in this way, which is my motivation has been to look for pattern, process, and relationship in all that I observe. And it is in that search for pattern, process, and relationship in which you cross disciplinary boundaries or develop a full situational awareness which combines focus and circumspection. So it's about seeing all round, both from inside out and outside in, and also being able to focus in particular directions and combining that ability to focus and circumspect at the same time to understand actually or enable you to arrive at a comprehensive perception, situational perception of reality. And context means situation.
Thank you so much. DT, I forgot your real name.
Darian.
Darian. Please, Darian. Do you need the question again?
If you would, please.
Okay. Can you tell us of circumstances where your ability of cross-contextual comprehension was helpful? 2 minutes.
Yeah. I'm going to focus on my most recent academic project, which is now 8 years old. It was looking at incorporating complexity science into policy planning and development. And my cross-contextual comprehension came in the sense that we're looking at the intersection of two complex adaptive systems, the environment and society. And those interactions can be of almost any kind. But in terms of trying to make policy work, you have to have some understanding of what the likely outcomes will be. And when you're talking about complex adaptive systems, that whole prediction system disappears, because it's no longer if we do this, then this will happen. It's more like if we tweak this, it's going to happen over here and over here and over here and over here. And we don't know when, where, or how intense, or if those will set off other things. So in order to get this project to work, I was a program manager, so I was basically the day-to-day manager of this project. I had to call on things that Julia's referenced, things that other people have referenced, and my ability to understand how two major complex adaptive systems intersect and what that means. If I hadn't been able to do that, the project would not have worked.
Thank you so much. That's incredible. And it sounds very complicated, but it's also what we as polymaths love to do. I think it's
Yes.
inspiring. Michael,
Yes. And
please.
I'm actually,
Oops,
sorry,
sorry.
can I finish with
Yeah.
one thing? I'm actually taking that work, which was abandoned because of research council issues, and I'm trying to move it forward as my own business project.
That's
So
cool. Thank you so
thank you.
much. Michael,
I don't think my cross-contextual capabilities have been much benefit yet, mainly because people don't get it. And so it's always been confrontational and rejection for most of my life, and made me self-doubt myself. There's no denying, because in my mind, it's like, if you can't get it, I must be wrong. Or if this many people can't get it, I must be wrong mentality. And it maybe comes down to something that one of the ladies said earlier, that I just don't have the art of communication. That's one of my major failings. I think it has to do with being, psychologically, Barbara, you could talk about it being the fifth of six children who was neurodiverse. Almost every discussion had to be an argument to be heard. So I think that's my lack. But since finding out I'm neurodiverse, I've gained a lot more confidence, and I've been very prolific in developing things now that I've gained confidence in myself. So I'm hoping to bring my contextual, cross-contextual
yes.
views into the context of the real world. Because to me, ideas are useless if we can't get them out into the world helping people. So, and I think this kind of goes back to what you had in your last meeting I didn't get to. I think this is why polymaths are so unemployed, is we're each trying to work in our own, trying to convince people who just don't get us. And so we can't get employed. I think we need to come together as a group and make our own stand as, here's the wonderfulness, all these ideas that we bring to the table. And then we're not waiting for the wave to turn for people to accept us. We're being the wave.
Thank you so much, Michael. That's wonderfully stated. Cross-contextual comprehension is such a I didn't know how complicated this word was to say when I set up the topic, because yeah, it's kind of something you better copy paste and always say. Craig, where has cross-conceptual comprehension been of benefit for you and your environment?
It's as many of you have already stated, it's kind of our life. It is everything that's benefited me everywhere. Erna touched on already, so I'll follow up with her from there. I absolutely have to take this. I'm so sorry. Somebody else.
Thank you so much. Now the picture has changed and I have no orientation anymore. So I think Julia.
And is my voice audible?
You better. You can talk now, Vishwa. 2 minutes.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with my niece and two nieces 2 days ago, and they are about 11 and 13. And I was trying to make them understand why philosophy is important. And I had to talk about a TV show that they had seen, which had superhumans in it. And I asked them the question, would you like superpowers? And I had to bridge two different worlds together to show them the importance and the nuance of what philosophy can be, how it can give you superpowers, or how it has in the past for me. And I came up with the analogy at the end that it's like having cutlery. If you don't have cutlery, then you have to go and scavenge for it or create it in an oven. Like everything, you need a knife, a fork, a plate to eat food. So now with philosophy, you have that already integrated somehow so that you can directly have the meal or do it faster. That's where we led to at the end, but it started with multiple contexts.
Thank you so much. That's great. Julia, please.
Right. I'll have to get my brain back into gear. So I'm still thinking Humboldt. Oh, he would have said, "Look, there's a penguin," but I don't think that's quite what you were looking for. So sorry about
Your
that.
surveyor story was good, Julia.
Oh, yes. I mean, from oh damn, I've forgotten. I was so going to be perfect, word perfect, but yeah, I was saying many years ago, I was a surveyor, and you had to buy and sell land and sort people out, and um, what I discovered is that people were so siloed that it was actually a new thing when I called together a meeting which had the utility people, the valuers, the local council, the legal people, whichever, the landscapers, the engineers, in one meeting to discuss something. It might have been a school, location of a school building, or just the side of a road. It could have been any scale, but it hadn't been done. And I couldn't believe that, because the organisation had been around since I was age 7. So that seems very, very strange. It was all memos and no meetings. But to get them all to work together, I just used metaphors, or we had the map and said, well, if this goes here, what happens to and do we need the trees to blot out a bit of the sound? Do we have a wall here to help direct people? Do we have, we looked at it as a whole, and not as each little bit. We didn't look at where does the pathway go? Why does the pathway go here? And then we'd ask, oh, you've got pipes underneath. We can't do that. So this is totally different from the story I told before, which came across with clarity, I think, but this doesn't. Basically, the one thing I noticed in education as well, the people will talk about trans, pan, intra, inter, and they all join in the meeting. But as soon as they're there, and being a minion, I didn't have any control over this, they would immediately go into their own little silos and look at it from their viewpoint. And it was so difficult to get people thinking in a different way, especially if you weren't actually supposed to talk in a meeting, if you just there to take notes. But never mind.
Yeah, but that's important, Julia, what you're saying. So you were able, with your polymathic ability,
Yeah.
to bring everybody on the same page and get a common understanding, which each of the siloed people would not have been. And I think this is like a typical polymathic talent, I would say. So thank you very much. Patrick.
Early in my career as a consultant, I had to learn the languages of marketing, sales, operations, IT. Well, I am an IT person. And in many system development meetings, I was the one who was listening to two people arguing, and I would be the one who said, "No, you're saying this, and you're saying this, and you're using different words. So let's translate the words, because you're actually saying the same thing. You are, in fact, in agreement. You just don't realize it." And it helped to, move things forward. People have their own, we've discussed the silos. Everybody has their own silos. They have their own language, they have their own viewpoint, and they don't see outside of this. And we are able to see outside. We're able to see everyone's different um, point of view. And because we're able to see that, we're able to translate it and bring consensus and bring alignment where it wouldn't exist, where things would just continue to be broken without us being there.
Thank you so much. That seems to me like, to make it a bit more complicated, but line it up to today's topic, you are transferring the cross-contextual comprehension to other people, which is great. Adam, please. Do you need the question?
No, I'm good. Thank you. So I've been thinking about this, and the word that keeps coming back to me is cohesion. That it feels to me like we provide cohesion between different worldviews, different silos, different languages, different contexts, different perspectives into some sort of collaborative whole. But we know the difference between cohesion and harmony, because harmony destroys value, but cohesion creates value. And so most of the reasons that we struggle in life is because people are looking for harmony. Everyone on the same page, singing the same song in the same language. And actually, we know that's not true, but we have the ability to deal with that. Whereas a lot of people don't have the ability to deal with that. I like argument, I like debate, I like discussion, I like agitation, I like disruption. That's kind of how we get stuff done. And yet when you go into an organization and start that shit, well, you know, often you find yourself out of work. Harmonization destroys value, I think, is perhaps the most important thing. The other one, I wrote a law called, I called it Wall's Law, slightly narcissistically, which is that measurement of anybody costs the capacity of that thing that you're measuring. And it seems to me that measurement of people is about differentiating them, pulling them apart. It's not about cohesion, it's about separation. And it seems that power comes from separation, whereas progress comes from cohesion. And what polymaths want is cohesion. And what those people that we don't like very much want is separation. People fighting against each other rather than looking at where the real problems are. There you go.
Thank you so much, Adam. I think we need another 10 minutes or so. We have, Adam, you haven't spoken yet in this context, I think. Adam Swamis.
Do you really want me to speak in this context? Because I'd go on for hours.
No, you have 2 minutes. I will stop you.
Okay, I'll talk really quick. Adam, I get you totally. And it's this thing about diversity. It's actually division in society. And that is totally wrong. All us polymaths, we hate it. Well, I do. Stick your hand up if you hate it. Great news. And I think Christopher Dalton will actually come back to this as well. I've seen him nodding his head slightly, and he tweaked his head at something that Alan said, I think. And that was about the contradictory wholeness of everything, if you see what I mean. And I'm very much aligned with Christopher Dalton on what he was saying about, because his head went spiraling off. Mine does as well, mate. We all do. It's all good. Don't worry about it. But the cross-contextual thing. Barbara's the only one who hasn't been drinking today, because Barbara's the only one who can say what she wants to say. But it's comes down to what I find I started. I struggled very hard as a kid, not fitting in anywhere, as most of us probably did. And it's only just recently that I've stepped outside my own box and started to view everything, not analyze everything, because that's the wrong word, but see how everything connects. Isotopic vector matrix, geometry, structure, coherence, and everything in life brings us into life, biology, systems thinking, computational reasoning, everything like that. And when I speak to people, some people get it, some people don't. And again, it comes down to what Michael said, is he feels is neurodivergence. I don't like that term. I don't like neurodivergence because it puts you in a pigeonhole. we are all how we are. It doesn't
Thank
matter
you,
how we
Adam.
are.
This is very important. That's why I never addressed neurodivergent, even though I know some people here are autistic, some are ADHD. I don't care. I'm welcoming you as human beings, and that's very important for me. And I love that you kind of astonished me now with your statement about diversity, because I always saw diversity as a field of grass and flowers like it used to be. That's
Harmony.
that's the diversity for me, like what it means. But to kind of diverse people away from each other, that's an opposite
Segregation.
thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nathan, please.
As usual, every comment inspires many threads of thought and rabbit holes. And thanks everyone uh, for the extreme distraction. Also, the wordplay, cross-contextual, cross-conceptual. I think we can come up with some others if we were to give it a try. I related a lot with what Patrick said, the translating between different stakeholder groups, and Julia as well. I think some of this is an exercise in applied empathy, being able to look at whatever the situation is from the various perspectives and pull them together. I want to mention two research concepts from Howard Gardner, who's been looking at synthesis as kind of the forgotten intelligence. Making sense of it all is its own thing and is important, and I think it's what we do naturally. And Michael Araki's trait polymathy model adds integration to depth and breadth, and I think that's really important for me. A lot of what I do is look beyond boundaries, just naturally, and I think what enables that is my awareness of other domains and what is out there beyond the boundary. I'm not constrained by somebody's silo, and so I've discovered industries and disciplines that have independently created the same wheel and don't know it and aren't learning from each other. And a lot of what I do is pull those things from, oh, I've seen this. There's a high profile case study that it was years ago, but the Ferrari Formula One team consulted with a hospital on handoffs between surgery and I think the ICU. If you search Ferrari F1 hospital, you'll find multiple articles. This is like 25 years ago. But it turns out that in a high stakes, many people doing things at the same time environment, the pit crew that can do a pit stop in a couple of seconds has some things to teach the doctors, the surgeons, and the nurses who also need to do a bunch of things in a short amount of time with high stakes. And I think that's just a fantastic example that everybody should know about.
Thank you so much. I know it from the mistakes culture that I studied quite intensively, that we learned how to work more secure from pilots, where we took the concept of checklists from, and also the critical incident reporting system, which we have in medicine, is a cross-contextual adaptation from the air traffic.
That's another good one.
Thank you so much. Angela, please.
I want to thank everyone for the discussion. I think what popped into my head that I never thought about is that, it's this layer, like, I think Adam said more clearly, like, not the coordination, but like, I'm the kind of like because I feel like for me, I go to a lot of different types of talks, and then I'm like, oh, you need to meet this other person here and talk about this, because I'm very, like, I don't want us as groups to reinvent the wheel, and we can learn from other disciplines and from other things. So, like, I'm, for example, on this IEEE thing with digital trust, and I'm like, it's a little bit out of my, I'm not a cryptographer or anything else, but then like, I think they invited me because they're like, Angela, you know people and you go to these things. And I think maybe I don't have to know everything about the details, but I can know enough to be open-minded and be like, oh, this person, and we need to kind of get into the flow, like bring people in. And I never thought until a friend pointed out, she's like, oh, this is kind of a job, but I don't think of it as a job, being this translator coordinator part of this network. Yeah, and so I was at an event, and they had like this this driving thing, simulator thing, and I was like talking to one of the people there. Like, I was working at the event, so it was my job to run people through. And then I started talking about to the person about how I used to do work in this and like transfer control. And then I was like, I'm also on IEEE bot, and they're like, whoa, you know a lot of stuff. And I was like, it didn't seem like it seemed natural because it's my experience. And so I kind of want like this world of where we can value everyone's like unique experience. And that's how we learn, is because everyone's has a different perspective, but we need these coordinating people. I don't know, for lack of better words, because it's a job that doesn't really exist. The who are, looking outside the typical boundaries and being like, hey, why don't we learn from these other communities?
Thank you so much, Angela. This is very important. And it's in my head, there's a picture of polymaths knowing that sometimes they just need to find a room with a table where they sit stakeholders of different parts of the business together because they never talk to each other, and be the translator. And I think that's something similar that you're doing here. So thank you very much. Tinuke, which hasn't said something yet.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for having me. Sorry, my video is being wonky, but I was so excited when I saw your email because I recently revived a project I was working on in 2020. So it's at the intersection of aviation, sustainability, and women's empowerment. And so my plan is to get the billionaires together and basically build a new line of environmentally friendly private jets. I know this sounds crazy, but like, everybody wins because people get their private jets, the environment is saved, and if we can use it as an opportunity to support women in STEM, then we're able to work through all of that empowerment dynamics. And so that way, it kind of links into what Alan always talks about when he talk about natural inclusion and kind of looking for solutions that can actually come from the environment and benefit the environment. Because I think a lot of the conversations we're having now are very antagonistic, and nobody wants to let their toy go, right? It's like, like in 2020, a lot of people are like, no one's going to agree because, the oil lobby and everything like that. But we're in an oil war now, and oil is expensive, and Spirit Airlines just went out of business. So, yeah, so that's kind of my little cross-contextual project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Christopher, 1 minute.
Thank you so much. So what's occurring to me here, and I appreciate the conversation, listening to it very much at this point. It's really helped me see something. I think that this capacity is not something that a human being shares equally in any order, in any imaginative reality. Okay, it is clear that not everybody is capable of this. And I have a story to bring to mind that just really it deeply imprints that. I was in college. I went to try to do grad school for religion in Hawaii. Okay, and I'd done a bachelor's degree, and I really got a lot out of my bachelor's degree for myself. Now I was in a study of religion class. Okay, now this is where you take basically all the basic ideas of religion, right? And then you use those to come to some understanding of the greater whole, right? And so the idea isn't to just sit there and even pick one and then get to know it really well, but it's to kind of, mix. Yes, everybody gets it. The most amazing thing, y'all, okay, is like we had the space to do it. We had the instructions to do it. We had everything we needed to do it. And literally the whole freaking time, people are basically taking one of the people and then trying to analyze everything using that one limited point of view. That's what we're dealing with. Okay. I just don't think that everybody is capable of the same cognitive capacity. And this is actually something that I think people talk about neurodivergence. I don't care. It's like if somebody doesn't get what you're saying, they just, and you try to say it to them again and again, and they never get it. There's a disconnect there. And I think we need to sort of start to come to understand this as a humanity and as individuals in an incredibly bereft infrastructure, an infrastructure that doesn't work for anybody except for billionaires, frankly. Enough said.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. John Saad, you wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, just real quickly, from an overriding observation, and this is my first call, I look at the word comprehension as application over and above just the cross-contextualization of understanding multiple things and patterns and bringing them together. And I don't think if we can, as a group, I think a lot of folks said they struggle with the communication piece. So I think your job, Barbara, and your work and bringing these people together so that I think the training point is to learn how to communicate better so that we can take these ideas and actually impact the world, because the word comprehension becomes the word contamination if we don't know how to apply them. And so I think the best gift that you could give all of us is the gift of learning how to communicate this wonderful skill that most everyone on this call has.
Thank you so much. And this is what has been happening for many of us in my comprehension. During the calls, people learn to really communicate better without even being aware of it because of the time constriction that I said. So one point that I wanted to point out in cross-contextual comprehension is that it makes it, when you have understood something in one place, you can understand it in another place much faster because you already did all the exploration and you already gathered the understanding for you. So in the next place, like I did an apprenticeship as a photographer. So when I studied medicine, I didn't need much time to understand optics because I already had learned all the concepts. And this is a very powerful thing that polymaths have across many fields and across many thoughts that they're bringing into any work. So it is actually an important thing for us to be aware of this when we are looking for a job or some other opportunity, that we are aware of it and that we know that we can communicate this and say that this is our unique advantage among others. So thank you so much for joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Ciao.